Hello there, and welcome back for another video. In this lesson, we are looking at the concept of unit rates, and this is a very important thing in ratio and proportion. We use unit rates in a lot of areas of math, actually, so it's important to be able to find one of these and to recognize what they are when you see them. So I'm on page 16. And let's start with the definition of a unit rate. A unit rate is a ratio, and remember what ratios do. A ratio that compares a quantity to a single unit. Getting ahead of myself, to a single unit. And these very often, I will go so far as to say that they usually have the word per. So if you see the word per, P-E-R, that is a good clue that this is a unit rate that you're looking at. Unit rates are found by dividing or simplifying a ratio. When dealing with unit rates, the unit of measure is usually the bottom number. If a dollar sign is involved, put it on top. And that's not a math rule. That's just a suggestion that I have that will be easier for you if you put your dollars on top. And problems that compare prices are usually about unit rates. And they want me to calculate the unit rates for each example and to list those answers right here. And the reason I want you to list the answers is so we can talk about what they look like. So let's do these examples, and then we'll talk a little bit more about how to recognize a unit rate. The first one, I gave you a picture because I do believe that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And this one says 4 basketballs cost $36. And they want me to find the unit rate. Now, we probably could look at that, and especially if you like math, you could probably tell me immediately what the price of one basketball is going to be. I hope so, because that will make, hopefully, the explanation a little bit clearer. But here's how you set up the unit rate problem. We are comparing two things: basketballs and money. And remember, I suggested if you are dealing with dollars, you put those on top. So we're looking at dollars to basketballs. So the first thing we do is set up our known ratio, which is $36 will buy 4 basketballs. That is not a unit rate. A unit rate must have a 1 on the bottom. Now, there are a couple of ways you can do this. You could solve the proportion, which we've done in previous lessons, where you would say 36 times 1 is 36. And 36 divided by 4 is 9. So $9 for one basketball. So this one would be $9. This one would be $9. This one would be 9. And this one would be 9. Those are the units in this problem. So units are a unit rate is the amount for one item. But since we just spent a lot of time learning to simplify ratios, That's the way I'm going to do this. Now, I know that I want a 1 on the bottom of my ratio, so the only way to get that in this problem is to use a 4. 4 into itself is 1 time, and 4 into 36 is 9. So the unit rate, let's come back over here to our answers and say $9 per ball. That is a unit rate. Okay, number 2. Isabella flew 600 miles in 120 minutes. Find her unit rate. So I'm going to highlight miles in minutes because those are the two quantities that I'm comparing. And I'm going to set the ratio up as miles to minutes. Units of time will usually be the bottom number. If you have a unit of time in your problem, it's usually a safe bet to put it on the bottom. So 600 miles in 120 minutes. And we need to simplify that. You can use your calculator, or you can take off a 0 and then simplify by 12, because remember we want a 1 on the bottom. So 5 to 1. So this ratio is 5 miles per minute. So that would be 300 miles per hour. This is probably a small airplane or a large airplane. It's something that's moving pretty fast. Okay, Ava read 110 books in 11 months. Find the unit rate. So we're comparing books to months. Books. Again, if you have a unit of time, that's probably going to be the bottom number. That's the unit that you're looking for as the unit rate. So 110 over 11. You can't knock off zeros because there's not a 0 on the bottom, but we can divide by 11 to get a 1 down there on the bottom. 11 into itself is 1, and then 11 into 110 is 10. So she is reading 10 books per month. And hopefully you see the pattern with the unit rates. You see that word per in there? That is a big clue that we're looking at unit rate. Jackson called 252 calls in 36 days. Find the average number of calls per day. Well, they don't use the term unit rate, but average per day is another way of saying that. And our units this time are calls and days, and you want to put the unit of time on the bottom. So calls, sorry, I have my shape tool still on, calls over days. 252 calls in 36 days. So let's divide by 36 and see what we get for one day. And I have no idea on this one. I believe it's 7, but I'm not positive. So 252 divided by 36 is 7. Let me just remind you, if you're using the fraction key on your calculator, you will get just a 7. Remember that you have to give it a bottom number. A ratio always has a top and a bottom. So remember the 1 there. So this is 7 calls per day. So if we look at these unit rates that we found, I want to call your attention to the word per. Those are unit rates. And on the bottom, you've got units of time, and 3 of them. And then the dollar one, remember, you want your dollar sign on top, and that will make it a little bit easier sometimes. So assignment number 3 wants you to calculate the unit rates for each scenario. And so I'll be back in the next video and we'll work these problems. But I want you to work the problem and see if you can come up with the unit rates for these situations.